I've made a big claim in the title of this video, and I didn't do that just to get you to click. I honestly experienced a dramatic improvement in my overhead position just by unlearning some dogmatic thinking about shoulder positioning in overhead presses and handstands. I was taught on multiple occasions on weightlifting and handstand seminars that I should externally rotate my shoulders in the overhead position. This is a great example of how coaches can actually do a lot of harm. By giving a cue or explaining something from a place of authority, we can often shut down an athlete's curiosity and stop them from trying it in lots of different ways and figuring out which way works best for them. It was when I saw this Instagram video that I started to consider that maybe my coaches had been wrong about external rotation. Was allowing internal rotation actually going to be better for my overhead position?
This movement is glenohumeral rotation. So this is internal rotation, external rotation. Internal, external.
The truth was hard to miss when I tried it out.
These side-by-side comparisons show me experimenting with glenohumeral rotation in several important positions for barbell work and handstands. On the right, you can see a much more efficient lockout compared to the left. There are several key positional differences that make the right better than the left. And for me, these changes happened naturally when I focused on shifting from external to internal glenohumeral rotation. Just to clarify, for each of the three movements, I got myself into position and then started by artificially biasing external rotation and then switching to internal rotation while observing how stable and efficient each position felt. When I internally rotate, I feel my rib cage tilting anteriorly and my pelvis tilting posteriorly. This means my diaphragm and pelvic floor can oppose each other more directly, giving me much more stability through my trunk. My scapulars are also able to elevate more, allowing me to oppose gravity more effectively. My shoulders are also able to flex slightly more into a fully open shoulder position, which improves stability and control. In the split jerk, this feels like a more evenly distributed transfer of load down through the body and into the floor. In the paw lockout, I feel more weight on my front foot and more strain and tension in the muscles along the front of my body. In the efficient, internally rotated lockout, I feel like I have 50% of the weight on each foot, and there's a balance between the muscles on the front and the back of the body. In this position, I feel like I can relax a lot more and let the bones do the work of supporting the load. In the handstand, this more open shoulder position feels so much more stable, almost like I am no longer being supported by the shipping container. This is because having open shoulders provides a wider margin for error before I over or under balance. The same analogy applies as with the split jerk position. In the banana handstand, the muscles are working so much harder, while in the straighter, open shoulder version, the bones stack up to support the load.
So here's how you can do the same experiment and see if you're missing a trick too. First, put your hands on the floor and try kicking up into the handstand with your glenohumeral joint in each of the following two positions. Firstly, with your shoulders
Externally rotated.
with the crook of your arm facing forwards towards the wall. And secondly, with your shoulder internally rotated with the crook of your arms facing inwards and your elbows pointing sideways. You can also do the experiment with a barbell. So try and press the barbell overhead and bias external rotation in the glenohumeral joints. How does this feel? How much effort does it take to maintain this position? Now, try pressing the barbell overhead again and allowing your shoulders to internally rotate. Which lockout feels more stable and open to you? Which one feels more natural and requires less effort to maintain? For me, it was immediately obvious that when I allowed my shoulders to internally rotate in the overhead position, it was a much more natural and stable lockout. There was a knock-on reaction down the chain, and I felt like my rib cage was able to sort of tilt more anteriorly, creating a much stronger position through my trunk, so that when I was catching the bar in the split jerk or holding the straight position in a handstand, my trunk felt much more stable and the whole position felt more balanced and easier to control. In the handstand, this stops you from doing that kind of banana handstand where you're constantly overbalancing. And in the split jerk, it's less apparent at lighter weights because you have such a wide base of support compared to the handstand. But once you're getting really heavy loads on the bar, say above body weight, the stability through the trunk and the ease of opening the shoulders becomes really important so that you don't start to press the bar out. If you're struggling to feel the difference between internal and external rotation in the glenohumeral joints using the handstand or with the barbell overhead, then try this series of kind of back to wall shoulder flexion tests. And I think it'll become very apparent what position your shoulders need to be in to facilitate the best lockout.
Don't take my word for this though, try it yourself. If you externally rotate both glenohumeral joints and then try to bring your arms overhead, if you're like me, you'll hit a block before you reach vertical. And then, if you allow your shoulder joints to internally rotate, you'll be able to reach the vertical position, or at least get closer. You can also do this with a back to wall shoulder flexion test. So if I take the underhand grip on the stick and focus on external rotation of the shoulders, I hit the block. Whereas if I change my grip to an overhand grip and allow my shoulders to internally rotate, I can reach the vertical position that I need for handstands and Olympic weightlifting. So, as I said, glenohumeral internal rotation for full flexion. This stick drill is a nice way of exploring glenohumeral internal rotation in the overhead position. Half eagle hangs from the bar are also a great way to get the body used to this position. You can do it first of all with your feet on the floor to take some of the weight, and if you feel good you can then go to like hanging with full body weight. If you're really tight, you might want to take a slightly wider stance, or wider grip with your hands, and then maybe over weeks and months you gradually work your way into a shoulder width grip. So this is the first drill, half eagle hangs, to help teach your glenohumeral joint to internally rotate to achieve full flexion.
Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments if you found this helpful, and stay tuned to my channel for 2 more videos that I'm going to be releasing in the next few weeks as part of my overhead mobility series.
I'm also currently working on a protocol for folks who struggle with the front rack position. So if this is something you'd be interested in, please consider subscribing to the channel. The videos in that series should be released in the next month or so.